Good morning. Can we proceed with the first panel session? We'll just give you 30 seconds for you to take your seats. And we still have two more panelists to join us. Dr. Chin, up. No, don't worry. You must find yourself. Okay. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. And a very good morning to all of you, distinguished participants and guests. And I also welcome our panelists for this first session, which is talking about education keeping with the constant change and preparing for the future. The two key operating words is constant change and preparing for the future. Education, how do we address this constant change? It is a static and a constant, given constant, or is a constant change and future? What sort of a future we are talking about? I think you all know that day by day changes are taking place, and the future is going to be either very promising or very bleak. If you watch some of the news channels, you'll find that fear is creeping in onto whether the planet is going to be safe, whether we are going to be saved without a war, whether we are going to be saved with so much of the climate changes, and so on. So we have a broad group of people with us this morning, from curriculum development, founder of a private university group. We have the early childhood education and care, and we also have the president of the National STEM Association, and also from the private sector, we have people who are in the education, I would say education business or education development, and we also have other people who have got regional exposure. So let me just say this panel, I would take it on a vertical platform. I will start with the first speaker, Mariani Muhammad No, Datin Professor Dr. Mariani Muhammad No. Why I choose her to be the first speaker, although the order in which they are listed is different, because early childhood education and care is the platform, the basis on which we are going to build the subsequent layers of education. So we start with the early childhood education. Of course, education is, we all say, is from the cradle to the grave. So there is no stopping from that. So can I ask Datin Professor Dr. Mariani Muhammad No to give us your perspective? Each is given 7 to 8 minutes for you to present, and hopefully we will all do it within this time frame, and then given time for us to interact, we will open it to the floor for comment, for questions, and clarifications. With that, Dr. Mariani.
Okay, thank you very much, Dato Sri. Assalamualaikum, and a very good morning. I think I'm very much honored because I am given the first speaker to talk about this issue. And I think Dato Sri, you have also given the first step to constantly make the change. That is, you recognize us ECCE industry that make me to become the first speaker. Yeah. So before I proceed to some issues on the constant change or trend, I would like to give some overview about the ECCE industry. Now, we cannot deny that our early learning start at home. Yeah, and this is the place where parents play an important role. Beside parents will be the sibling and other family members. Yeah, and when we go out of the compound of the home-based area, which is the schooling system, we are in actually under ECCE industry or ECCE services, or I would say in this platform, I would like to choose ECCE ecosystem. So if it is at home, parents play an important role. Under ECCE ecosystem, there are many section or many sector that plays an important role. First is the policy maker. The policy needs to think about the relevant policy that is relevant and that really fits into the demand of the current change of the environment around us. Second is the different ministry. Why I say different ministry? Because we have different preschool. Yeah, we have different types of preschool under government. We have prasekolah under Ministry of Education. We have Tabika Kemas under Ministry of Women's Affairs. We have Tabika Perpaduan under Ministry of Housing. And on top of that, we do have private sector as well. Private kindis. We do have nursery for 4 years and below, governed by Jabatan Kebajikan Masyarakat. So if you see, there are different ministries. So they play an important role. And of course, on top, beyond and above, preschool educators play a very, very important role. If the upbringing of the children at home is done by parents, of course, the upbringing under the ECCE ecosystem will be done by the preschool educator, will be done by the care provider at a taska level, and besides that, community also plays an important role. So, Dato Sri, actually, your platform is playing a main role under the community aspect. And we got to bear in mind that with the different types of ECC industry, the public, the private, the special needs, it is very important to see that the changes of the ECCE, I would say that the ECCE ecosystem is going toward a good end, Dato Sri. I wouldn't say that it is not going to a bad end. However, there are hiccups here and there. And these hiccups need to be improved. This hiccup needs to be changed, of course, with the different types of ECCE ecosystem, to name it, at the different type of preschool. Of course, the teachers will use the curriculum and they will have their own curriculum. But with the standard preschool curriculum, which is NSPC, and also the Khusus Asas Permata, wherever they are as a private premise or as a government premise, they can always use the curriculum with flexibility and innovatively. So this is where the thinking skill comes in. And I'm sure Yang Berbahagia Professor Dato Dr. Noraini Idris will talk about the thinking skill through STEM. Yeah. And I would also like to say that I quote what you said just now, quote unquote, yeah, Dato Sri, anything change, the world change. Of course, anything can change. And I think everybody agrees, minister also change, policy change, political environment change. But one thing we need to do is to make sure that the constant change is taking place, is to reaffirm the continued commitment in ensuring the universal access, okay, be it in the curriculum, be it for the infrastructure, for the infrastructure, and also for the training of teachers, none other than to improve the quality of the ECCE, yeah, and to transform the ECCE ecosystem, not really to transform, but to make sure that the constant change is always there, that fits into the demand of the parents, the children, the families, and the community. We need to also make sure that all the ministerial, all the governmental agency needs to collaborate. Now, why they need to collaborate? Because this is very important to make sure that all children at all level stand under the different premise of ECCE industry will have the proper education, and so that when they move over to the primary level, which I think everybody will go to the primary level using the common curriculum and syllabus as well. So at least they will acquire the necessary soft skill. They will have the character building, okay, built up by their preschool educators using a good policy standing with a vision and mission, and with the proper training of the preschool educators and with the proper training of the caregiver. And on top of that, Datuk Sri and my fellow panelists, we also need to make sure that we are in a rapidly changing world of work, rapidly changing world of environment and also society. And we got to bear in mind that we need to maximize the digital technology. Now, why to maximize the digital technology? This is to ensure that we would be able to really provide an alternative models of ECCE professional, alternative model of ECCE infrastructure, and most important is that the models of ECCE continuous professional development. Why? None other than to get the accessibility, flexibility, and to make sure that all teachers are creatively and innovatively thinking, regardless whether they are from the urban or the rural areas, and also regardless also for children whether they are from the minority group, the normal children, and the special needs children. So to me, everybody here in Malaysia, and I think in the world as well, to make sure that this will take place, it is very important that the full recovery needs to be in place, where all children, the families, the ECCE program and sector as a whole will be supported in areas such as the policy, the governance, and also the finance. Talking about the finance, it is very important that the ECCE ecosystem is well taken care upon. Now, I said just now that I'm very much honored, and thank you very much, Dato Sri, because you really look at us as the main priority issues nowadays. In other words, I would like to say that we need to look at the ecosystem with both our big eyes, and not with one half moon eye. Yeah, this is very important. If I were to say that it takes a village to raise a child, so it takes the whole ecosystem to raise a child, and to make sure that the ECC ecosystem is authentic, even though there is even though there is a change, as you said just now. When we look at the media nowadays, we are fear of a lot of things. So whatever it is, the ecosystem, ECC ecosystem needs to be authentic and needs to be future proof. If I look at the topic, it is future ready. So in other words, for us, it is more of a future proof. So whatever happens, we are always in place to educate the young ones, to prepare them for the outside world, not only to prepare them for them to go to the primary level, secondary level, and tertiary level, because our upbringing is very, very important, not only from home, but also from the ECCE level. So to say that how important is ECCE level, that I think all ministries, all agencies, all NGOs must look upon at this ECCE industry as a very important platform for a future generation of our human capital. That is from me, Dato Sri.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Mariani. We heard from you that the early childhood is basically on different tracks. based on different ministries and what they provide in terms of financial and other infrastructure support systems. Now, what I would like to ask you at this stage is, you have said so, the first thing is the early childhood education is completely absorbing all those who subsequently would go to what we call the primary school and then onwards to the secondary. Is that taken care of, or is still a large population of children, they don't have access to this early childhood education? Quickly.
Well, Dato Sri, we got to see at our we need to look at our geolocation. Yeah, we need to look at the rural areas sometimes, because sometimes the accessibility is not there, and I think not parents are really capable of buying the gadget for their children to go beyond using the technology for them in the learning process, because we have to make sure that the accessibility to the internet, the accessibility to the electronic digital technology is well equipped to them, and at the same time the preschool teachers and care provider also must be equipped with the competent, knowledgeable skills and experts, so that they can use it anywhere, everywhere, even if there is something changed. This is where I said it must be future proof. So quite a number of our children out there is still in need of the accessibility for the learning process, especially in the digitalized world nowadays.
Okay.
Dato Sri.
Thank you. Stay online, don't go away,
Yeah.
because
Sure.
we will have to interact with you at some point in time. Now, having heard this early childhood, even before the early childhood formal education, the family is where the child is imbued with a lot of values and what we call precepts. And then the early childhood education, or the kindergarten, or the creches, or nurseries, or whatever take over. Now the next one is this preparedness of this early childhood education is transferred on the production system. So to use a very crude language, as if it is going to be like a factory or something like that, is going into the education system, whether it is the government education system or the private education system, and so on. So we have Dr. Rusmini from the Director of the Curriculum Development Division of the Ministry of Education. They have a big task. Where do they take from the early childhood, and what do they do both in the primary and the secondary, in order to look at whether we are future ready or even current requirements. I think earlier in the opening ceremony, we looked at Ms. Lau from NAPI. She was talking about industry ready. Is education system merely a production center to make it what we call industry ready? So over to you, Rusmini.
Thank you, Dato Sri. Assalamualaikum and a very good morning. In continuation with what Professor Mariani has explained just now, I would like to share with you, with the floor, that the Ministry of Education.
Rusmini, can you put your mic closer to your mouth a little bit?
Okay, thank you. The Ministry of Education, we have a program for the primary school. When they enter the school system, year one, we have a transition program for them to immerse themselves for 1 month, so that they can get used to the environment, get used to the school environment, and new friends, new teachers, and new teaching system in the school system. So we have this kind of program, a transition program, so that it will seamlessly transfer from the preschool to the school system. Upon hearing what Professor Mariani has explained just now, that there are several providers of the preschools, and teachers need to analyze. Maybe some of them can read and can write, and maybe some of the students still grappling with the alphabets. So there is a big task for the year one teachers to analyze their students. So that is why the ministry is providing them a program, a transition program for 1 month. And I would like to share with the floor and with the panelists that how do we prepare our students for the future or for the future challenges? We want to develop a holistic students as what has been enshrined in the national philosophy of education. And how do we prepare them not only for the world of work, but for their livelihood as well. And in our curriculum, so how do we develop then is through our curriculum, our teaching pedagogy and our school culture. And we reviewed our curriculum in 2017 due to environmental changes, technological changes, and the human capability, the needs of the industry. So we reviewed our curriculum from primary schools until secondary school in 2017, and we put more emphasis on critical thinking, problem solving, collaboration, and communication. And one of the subject or in the syllabus, we introduced coding and computational thinking since year 4 in the design and technology subject. So we have this subject, and from year 4 to year 6, and from Form 1 to up until Standard 3. So those are the basics. Those are the basics: coding and computational thinking, and the living skill as well. We put it in the curriculum so that our students will not be left behind with all the needs and the latest development in technology. And recently, the cabinet has approved our digital education policy that is really focused on our students' digital and digital competencies. And of course, the curriculum must be delivered by a good teacher and a good teaching pedagogy. So we have this kind of students that really good, the good ones, the excellent ones, and the mediocre, and those who really need support. So teachers are trained in terms of differentiated learning, and they have been trained in the teacher training institute at IPGs because IPGs train primary school teachers, aspiring teachers, and they have been trained in terms of new pedagogies of deep learning, whereby most of the problem-solving skills are embedded in the curriculum. So we can never shortchange any of these groups. So teachers must be really good in differentiated and new pedagogies of deep learning, so that they can cater to the different needs of the students. And of course, there are gaps and there are challenges in the Ministry of Education in terms of financial, in terms of human capabilities, so on and so forth. But the ministry is continuously trying to mitigate and trying to improve all the initiatives in the ministry, whatever the ministry have done. Thank you.
Thank you, Rusmini. Before we move on to the next panelist, I would quickly ask you to interact on this. The Curriculum Development Center is looking at the curriculum of the education system as a whole, the Ministry of Education. Now, to what extent the changes are perceived or monitored, and curriculum is modified, and to what extent this modified curriculum is brought into the domain of the teachers. Because I personally know that the teachers always say, you change, but we are not ready for the change. We have not been brought up to date with the implementation. How do you react to this?
Thank you, Dato Sri. Whenever there is a changes in the curriculum, any new inputs that we put in the curriculum, there must be an in tandem initiative with the teacher training. So any changes in the curriculum, the teacher training center is the first institute to know about whatever the changes that we have made in the curriculum, because and we have to train the in-service teachers as well through having modules, having through our jurulatih utama or the teacher experts. So these are the things that we have done and we will continue to do, so as to teachers are not left behind, or they cannot catch up with the whatever changes that have been made in the curriculum. Thank you.
Okay, we will come back to you later to look at some aspects of it. The school kids, whether it is in the primary or in the secondary, are absorbing the content that is guided by the Education Ministry's policies, objectives, policies, and also the implementation with constant change or modifications as and when it is required. Yet suddenly we wake up and we say that, hey, our shortage in terms of science, technology, engineering, and math seems to be falling. It is not in tandem with the requirements, first to begin with. It is not in line with the generality of what is happening in the rest of the world. And so the emphasis is on STEM. Why this has been brought about, to what extent it reflects, I don't want to blame the Ministry of Education or anything like that, but it is a realization to what extent the implementation is taking place strongly or moderately or poorly, we do not know, and what impact it is likely to bring about in the educational system of the country. So we have Professor Emeritus, Dato Dr. Noraini from the STEM emphasis interest group to give us her views.
Thank you very much, Dato Sri. Before I answer or give sharing about your question just now, I would like to ask the audience. Most of the audience is from Malaysia. Malaysia first. How many handphone do you have? How many? Okay. How many? Anyone here has more than 2 handphone?
Put your 2 hands up.
Yeah. More than 2 handphone. Just say hi, hi, hi. How many has more than 5 handphone? Just say hi. Okay. Because why did I ask this? A lot of us, we buy gadget. Our students at the university, they have 3, 4 handphone. But I said, can you invent 1 handphone for Malaysia? I don't know how to do that. My STEM, my science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, the concept is weak. So what's wrong with our student? Just like what Dato Sri was asking just now. My research and my National STEM Association, our team has explored, the curriculum of Malaysia is good. But the implementation, do you all agree? Thank you very much. Okay.
So that ends the panel session.
Okay. So That means now, what shall we do? We are here, we train our students to become user. With the chat GPT now. They say, oh, easy to do assignment now, Dato. We just key in the concept of Pythagoras theorem for mathematics, this, and then they come out with answer. So AI is there, the artificial intelligence is there. Artificial intelligence, is good. They generate all this AI, they speed up the innovation. The innovation speed up a lot of things. Internet speed up the sharing, yeah. And then, but what happened to us? Why is there? We are not able to come up with innovation. Why that we have to buy handphone from Samsung, from Huawei? They are not Malaysian. I'm sorry, those who are from overseas here. Okay, I don't mean that we are against you, but we are talking here now the scenario of our national education here and the learning here in Malaysia. So I think we really have to do a drastic change. That means all our professors, lecturers at the universities, we have to retrain. We cannot be coming to the class and just giving the assignment, give them notes or give them the PowerPoints and everything. We cannot do that anymore at the university level. Similarly, at the school level, we cannot just train our future teachers. This is the way to teach this is the way to teach this. No, everybody has to explore, everybody has to change. Some people said, it's easy to say that, but it's not, like in school, we have like 45, 55 children. I told them, make sure that everybody talk, but not at the same day. They can explain, they can share at a different level, at a different time. And then all the students must start from kindergarten to do innovation ideas, to produce innovation product from kindergarten. I've seen in UK, I went to York Center recently, they are continuously training their teachers to go forward and then to work closely with the Royal Society of Engineering, Royal Society of Science in UK to work together. So what Dato Sri was mentioning just now, the education from cradle to career, or he said just now to graveyard. Okay? From cradle to career, we have to work hand to hand. Recently, I have a meeting with Royal Engineering Society in UK. I asked them, how many engineers do you have here? We have 500,000 engineers. I said, what did they do? They don't compartmentalize. They don't say these civil engineers, these chemical engineer, these manufacturing engineer. They work as a team, but they go and solve UK problem on climate change. They solve a problem on sustainability. They work together as a team. So I think Malaysia, we have to work hand to hand, from cradle to career. Like what Datin Mariani was saying just now, our kindergarten curriculum, there are some from Kemas, Ministry of Perpaduan, there are some from Ministry of Education, there are some from several ministries. So all these ministries, we have to sit together and start action. No more talking, no more libat urus. No more libat, so we have been talking for the last 66 years. Ever since we are going to celebrate 66 years independence this coming August. But our students choose from Form 3 to Form 4 has dropped from 40-something% to 15.5% drop. That means choose at Form 3 to choose Form 4, pure sciences. Can you imagine 15.5% times by 437,000 Form 3s, which is only about 70-something thousand? That is where 20 IPTA to fight from, to choose to study into STEM field. So if we don't wake up, if we don't start something, it's really, I don't know what's going to happen to our country. Like what YB Roland was saying just now. So he really, but they were supported by a very good premier, very good system. So they have been doing a lot of STEM center, STEM project, and I'm so working with them to help Sarawak on students mentoring and also on STEM, working them closely and really enjoy working with them. So Dato Sri, back to the question just now, the ecosystem, yes, now with the economy turned down, it's bad. We cannot repair a lot of our school lab. But somehow or other, I think all our school teachers, our lecturers at the university have to work hand in hand to help our school children to bring to the universities to see how lab look like. And lab not only in the building, it can be outdoor lab. So we have to be innovative now in order that to bring back the fun to do science and to do STEM. And then on top of that, all the teachers and the professors, we have to work together, team teaching. I've seen teaching at Cambridge University, where the professors of education working together with the excellent teachers, because there are some questions asking by the candidates not be answered by the professor, but is answered by the excellent teachers. So they work as a team. And then they have to do really a lot of outdoors innovation, as simple, to do like biology, planting, hydroponics, whatnot, and all these things. So a lot of school has started, so we have to get more, or else the STEM, will be keep on dropping. So this is the things that we are working together all over. And now our project mentoring and also mini theater STEM together with NSA, we are already 5 years with Selangor, 2 years in Kedah, 2 years in Kelantan. We are starting the first year in Sabah, Sarawak, and Johor. So what we see in Selangor recently, a lot of our students get straight A's under our project, mini theater and also mentoring. So indicate that our students are okay, but our lecturers and our teachers not audience? Not okay, that's it. Yeah. Okay, okay. So I'll stop there. That's
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Noraini. I think the fault lines are somewhere there. Luckily, we have recognized the fault lines. But there is one thing that I want to integrate with the earlier presentations by Mariani and also Rusmini, is that in the early childhood education, is there an attraction for the children to be imbued with scientific attitude? Do we have that? Or we are going more towards certain type of content which says that science, technology, engineering, or maths is something very difficult. This is a mindset. The next one is, with that mindset, they go to school, they get a very dilapidated a concept, I don't want to take maths or additional maths, I don't want to take science as a subject, my streaming is going to be the art, and that sort of a thing. How do you reconcile this? If in the ecosystem, I think everybody used the word, I'm talking about the ecosystem. If the family is not science-minded, and if they don't send to the early childhood, which opens them up for certain discovery mentality, and the school system doesn't encourage to absorb this, then you find there is a problem. Do you like to comment on that, Noraini? Quickly.
Okay, yes, another group that we have to tackle is the parents. Because some parents, even though they are scientifically thinking, and some of them are engineers, they don't encourage their student, their child to go into engineering. Because why? They said the payment, the salary for the engineers is low, as compared to other countries. Like in Singapore, it's very high. That's why some of our students in Malaysia, once they get the results, their final year results, they already been invited to work in Singapore. So that's why now, this is again, the salary scale. I always told JPA, our Jabatan Perkhidmatan Awam, to look back also at the salary, the opportunity for all these engineers, medical people, and then now they said no more scholarship for the medical people. But actually, we understand the medical people, just the ordinary medical people, we have enough. But we don't have enough specialized medical. So that is the one that the scholarship is needed to help the parent understand why they need to study a lot of science, chemistry, biology, and maths. And maths, people look is difficult because our teaching style in the class, we never link them to the application of everyday life. We always said, we tell about the Pythagoras theorem. A squared plus b squared equal to c squared. Given a and c, we can calculate a b. Students said, what is this? Where do I use this? So the application of all these things. When we talk about binomial theorem, bracket 1 plus x to the power of n, and then n x, all these things. And then the calculus, dy dx, rate of change. So the student said, what is this? What? So where do I use? How do I use with the artificial intelligence? How do I want to invent the innovation with all this knowledge? Where this concept? So these is the things that make, yes, to make sure that our professors, our lecturers, our teachers, to see the application of the concept to everyday life and then start innovation. I have Temasek Foundation in Singapore. They have sponsored a student right from Form 1, Form 2, they are until Secondary 1, Secondary 2, Secondary 4, and then they have invented a lot of this AI on software. So they start commercialize it. They are the student there in Singapore is encouraging to do all this innovation right from beginning. So their kindergarten is already learning about coding in a simple way, in all the digital, that Datin Mariani was saying just now, it must be exposed right from kindergarten. All the digital, all these things, doesn't matter whether they're in kampong or not.
Okay, good. Good, so we have seen the perspective from three different people. Now we say you leave school, you're looking for higher education. The pathway is higher education, get a university degree, whether the degree is going to be useful directly to the industry or it is going to be in the professional area, whether it is science, technology, engineering, and maths based or medical based and all that. Now we have an entrepreneur, an educationist, as well as a person who is very much into the development of the society in a large way. Dato Dr. Peter Ng. So I would like to ask him to see from the university perspective, are you getting your candidates coming for your degree courses into the various disciplines, right or wrong, or you have to train them and retrain them before you send them out with your degree? Peter?
Yeah, thank you, Dato Sri. I'd like to start by sharing a little bit of my thought about education versus the constant changes. Then I will answer the question, Dato Sri. This morning, we look at this very interesting topic of education and constant changes. I think many of us have gone crazy, the craze over changes. And we have forgotten the real meaning or to analyze why do we need the change. The pursuit of change merely for the sake of change, I think has gotten us into a lot of troubles as well. Every new minister come, he will want to have something to be different. He will change something. Next one coming, he will change something. So we are perpetually on the path of changes. No continuity. So I think let's analyze that a little bit, okay? Number one, what underpins all these changes? I think a lot of us, parents, consumers, we are all at fault, right? We look at the trend. Do we know that many a time, the trend is actually caused by chaotic planning? What do I mean by that? For example, there is a trend right now that we need a lot of nurses, medically related technologies, people like CVTs, radiographer, ultra radiographer, perfusionist, you name it, radiographer. All these areas, we do not have enough people. And so parents and consumers are thinking, oh, this is a trend. Let's pursue this kind of courses. I mean, as crazy as it happens, I mean, at university, you know, the price of oil per barrel of oil has a bearing on how well the petrochemical engineering course will go. Because people are looking at the trend and they do not understand what causes the change. Why is there such a trend? And if it's not careful, then we will end up with a very chaotic situation and the country is not moving in the right direction and we produce different kind of people that are not needed or that are needed only for the moment, but then at the next season we're in trouble. And that is the case right now in our medical area. Okay, do not have enough people to support the industry. All right, so that is one area I want to talk about, that is the trend. Second, I think we need to also look at the technological changes that are actually happening on a daily basis. All right, for example, the fourth IR. The fourth IR, I mean, engineering field and many other fields, talking about it day in and day out. The question is, do we understand what this is all about? Right? So technological change at times are something that I think we need to totally understand as to how it will take us to what phase and what level of the development of the country in itself. Nationally, we need to know what is our aspiration. Right? There are things that I suppose Malaysia, should be capable of doing. I mean, our speaker talked about, Professor Emeritus Dr. Noraini talked about mobile phone, mobile technology, devices, and so forth. And so these sort of technological change, with the advent of internet technology and so forth, I think education provider like us, of course, we have to embrace this kind of change. These are the fundamental. These are the areas whereby I think we cannot escape out of it. And we cannot merely pursue, like what I say, in terms of of trends and that sort of thing, all right? So technological changes, I think that is real. Next, I want to look at pedagogical thing. And in the education industry, at university level, or primary, secondary, early childhood education, I think pedagogical things are something that really need to go together with times. Right now, with the AI, with the again Internet of Things and so forth, teaching change in terms of its pedagogical method. Yeah. So and I think many of us are outdated in that sense. So I think we need to wake up. Learning is no longer a classroom confined. It is the world classroom environment. You know, you're talking about intellectual property. It is no longer as what it is before. It is now accessible anywhere, everywhere. Many providers are now providing curriculum and course contents at no charge. Right, so learning has taken on a different way. It's student-centered, you know, and things like that. So I think pedagogically we need to shift. We need to change. That is real. Now, finally, I'd like to come back to the fundamental of education, and I think that ought to remain constant, remain unchanged, on some aspect. For example, the quest for knowledge. It's always the same, right? We always quest, we always look to learn. And whether it is lifelong learning from childhood all the way to what you call grave, we still all learning at all times. So I think in that sense, sorry, I lost my train of thought here.
Don't worry.
So we're talking about, the last thought is about this consistent, what remain consistent. So to me, the quest for knowledge remain consistent, right? And also, in terms of what we want to gain out of education in terms of securing job, in terms of advancing ourselves, all those remain the same. And so I think we will continue to pursue that. And as far as changes landscape is concerned. Thank you.
Thank you. What Peter brought in his perspective, a deep insight into the totality of what education is all about. We talk about this future ready, and we looked at earlier whether it is early childhood or whether it is curriculum development or going into very specialized field, is all content oriented. Content oriented. You're providing the content. And Peter just demolished that. The content is accessible throughout different gadgets at 24/7. That kind of a platform. Well, some guide, a guru is relevant or necessary, but a lot of learning can take place without a guru, without a teacher, and whatever it is. So knowledge and content have to be distinguished from the ability to apply that knowledge into what we call the wisdom. And when we talk about the future and the constant change, it is not only the employment aspect. You want to earn, you want to get a degree, you want to have a specialization that will take care of your livelihood, but it doesn't prepare you for life. There are lots and lots of people who have retired. They do not know what to do with their life. There are lots and lots of people of that kind. I think that is something that is very relevant, and we have to look at it from the point of view of future ready, whether you are in sync with your family, or whether you are going to dismantle your family, you are orbiting out of your family. This is a very big challenge. Then your community, and then now the country. the country is divided into very, very distorted beliefs and tendencies. We have to look at this from the value point of view. So thank you very much, Peter, for giving us that perspective. Although he didn't touch on the system producing the type of students that are going into the universities, but probably we will tell KSI to take this up into another summit, education summit. Now I've got two more speakers before we come to the closing time. We have got a little bit of an extension of time, maybe about 12:10 or so. So I want to ask Dato Dr. Peter Chin, Dato Dr. Chin. He is very much an institutional man. Many universities, he wears many hats, and also he is a regional person. So he will now look at it from the perspective of this constant change and what education is all about in order to prepare for the future. Dato?
Thank you very much, Dato Siri. You are a very versatile chairman. You can chair any summit. I've seen you chair 7 out of 10 summit already.
Are you saying that I'm a jack of all trades?
Chair the banking, education, so many others like property, culture, tourism, so many, and economics also. Okay, today I'm going to touch about this education. Actually, education to me is very important. I'm a lifelong learner. I got more than 40 university, study whole life. Recently only stopped because of, at one time I want to go into politics, that's why I stopped. You know, I will still continue studying non-stop. I got very strong affinity for knowledge, not for money. That's very sad, that's why I don't have money. Only got the knowledge. Okay, I just want to share with you some of what I call the different education system. We are so used to the Western educations or Malaysian system of education. I would like to share with you the Chinese school education concept. Chinese education concept is to train or teach a student to become a holistic student, a holistic man. Because the first thing, the emphasis is more on the moral first. Western education or Malaysian education is more talk about the knowledge, to teach you the functional knowledge, or just to give you impart you the knowledge. But for Chinese education, few thousand years ago, since the years of Confucius, 2005 years ago until now, to Chinese education, moral is number one. If there's no moral, no point you have the education. You become a very evil man. You will destroy the whole society. That's why this Chinese education first thing talk about moral. Second thing, we talk about knowledge. That means to teach you the knowledge. That means you must, Chinese used to say, you must know how to behave properly, then only you go and acquire knowledge. Or later on when you come to the society, then you must know how to become what I call a norm, what to do to become a proper person, or know how to handle people, then only how to handle the business or your works or jobs, something like that. So this Chinese education is very different from all other Western education or any other education system. Third thing to talk about what it is the physical education, a physical exercise. That means no point you just become a mentally very developed, but physically you are very weak. There's no point. So that's why you need to sort of really have to have this very mental development as well as physical development. Okay, the fourth thing is talk about what? Talk about how to appreciate the beauty of arts, the beauty of anything. Because I study engineering, I study arts also, that's why I'm a very complete person. Because when you are so scientific oriented, or what I call so engineering oriented, you tend not to have this artistic sort of feeling, you see. You cannot appreciate the arts or any other artistic thing, or this music or any other thing. That's why you want to become a complete person, there must be well balanced between these are what I call intellectual development and your emotional development. That's very important. So another thing is about, not yet, still haven't touched the core yet. So another thing is about how to build a team spirit, because that's very important. When you work in society, you need to work as a team, not only work in isolation. No man is an island. That's why this is very important. That's why these 5 virtues of Chinese education can teach a person to become a complete man, or what I call holistic person. This is very different. I hope maybe the education ministry will take note of this thing. That's why you can see this Chinese education system, so many thousand years already, can produce so many, you see the China now is so advanced. China so advanced now, catching up so fast. Within 45 years, they become world number 2 economically. I think sooner they become, in 2031, they become world number 1 in economically, not only economically, technologically, weapon, everything, they will become number 1. Because they got so many talented people. The population is so big and there's so many talented people. I think this the time, it's only time, just what I call, just wait for the time to come only. Okay, this thing I'm talking about, this special, and they talk about this innovation in our society. I feel that our Asian culture, what I call this, they will respect authority. You want to be innovative in anything, you must be a non-conformist. You must be different from other people. This one, what I call the power distance index is very high. So we tend to respect authority. Those with authority, those in power, we respect them, and they not challenge them. Once if they not challenge their thinking, or what I call what I call thinking, then you cannot be better person than him. So, I mean, in this, compare with this Western society, in this point we have to learn from the Western society. Because the Western society, the power index, the power distance index is very, very high. It's very high compared with Asians. So they are not conformist. That's why, in a way, they are more innovative. This Asian culture tend to respect the elders, tend to respect the authorities. That's why, in a way, you cannot be innovative. That's why this thing we have to be aware. So first thing, you have to teach the student to be critical thinking, or need to ask them to make a what I call independent decision. They always must look for their own solution rather than you fit them with solution. This is called the spoon fitting. That's why once you spoon fitting the student, no matter how they cannot become innovative. This is one thing. Another thing, I will have a suggestion to the education ministry for teachers or for these lecturers. They should have this continuing professional development courses. For engineers, myself as an engineer, I know we have to acquire certain CPD in order to maintain our engineer status. Even for doctors, for lawyers, also same. For accountants, also same. I study accountancy also. I study law also. So I know very well. So that's why I think teachers or university lecturers also have to go for this CPD in order for them to maintain associate professor or professor this status. If not, you know, as a teachers, if don't improve themselves, how can they teach the student the updated knowledge? I think this is very important. That's why the lecturers and this teacher also must always have to upgrade their knowledge also in order to teach the best student. Because for lecturers, of course, you have to choose the best lecturers. But the best lecturer not necessarily can teach one, no? So you also must give them the course how to teach them how to teach students. This is very important. That's why the CPD is very important. I think hope the education ministry will look into this and implement this, because teacher is a profession. We say lecturer is a profession.
We recommend that you be appointed as an advisor to the
I think so lah. With my knowledge, it's more than qualified lah. Joking.
Okay.
So I know you finished or still
Yeah.
one more minute.
No, I think we have got time constraints.
Just 1 minute.
Yeah,
only.
1
Okay.
minute. Yeah, okay,
Talk
30
about
seconds.
STEM, STEM we got about this science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. So science basically to me is 100% theoretical lah, because I studied this collision side before. Then engineering, I studied mechanical engineering. Engineering, I think the theoretical part is 70%. The practical part is 30%. For technology, I studied material technology before, so I know also. So materials technology, the technology part is about 50% theoretical and 50% is practical. And for vocational courses, it's the reverse. 70% practical, 30% theory. Which one I cannot do well because I'm not handy enough. Okay, I stop here. If not,
Yeah, thank you.
Can stop 1 hour also cannot finish.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Chin. I think it's not necessarily that we have to call Bibin as the last speaker. We debated a lot on the education process. Ultimately, it is the ability of the industries and the economic and business environment to absorb them, because that is the utilitarian part of the education. The other intrinsic part which Peter and others mentioned, that's a different. So Bibin will now look at it from the industry perspective. Who is coming out of the universities or the professional degrees and courses, and to what extent the demand is there and how they will be absorbed into that. Over to you, Bibin.
Thank you.
I'll give you extra time, don't worry.
Yeah, I'm the last one, so thank you, everyone. So I represent Coursera, which is a digital learning platform. We have about 125 million learners on the platform. And through our work with about 3,000, 4,000 companies around the world, thousands of universities around the world, we learn a lot about what is important for the industry and even the higher academia. So I'm going to talk about, I'll set the context with three things that we are seeing, and then 4 trends. So that will probably be my conversation here. One, and many of it has been touched, right? Technology is obviously changing industries. Today, if you go to a bank, they are saying we are no longer a bank. We are a technology company in the financial services space, right? Banks have changed. So how do you then figure out who will work in these banks, as an example, with the kind of skills that are required? It's not just financial skills, it is very different skills, which is why Dr. Noraini, you mentioned about STEM being such an important piece of it. Dr. Rusmini spoke about those critical thinking, problem solving kind of skills, the softer skills, right? How do you continue to build on that? Because those are the evergreen skills. Technology is going to keep changing. Every 6 months we have a new technology. We did not have ChatGPT 7 months ago. And today, that's changing the world. And when we think about the third thing that is happening is, about 4 or 5 years back, there was a study done about the risk of automation on jobs. And people said that the most impacted group of people would be people who don't have degrees or just a diploma, etc. But today, with GPT and generative AI, it's not just about blue-collared workers, right? It is about degreed professionals who are also being impacted, which basically means there is a different work that we all need to do as an ecosystem to prepare our students and the professionals to prepare for this kind of a world, and even children from an early childhood perspective. So let me talk about the 4 key trends that we are seeing, especially from an academia perspective. The first thing is, no longer universities and academic systems can remain insular. It is a world of collaboration. And I think there is no world in which a university can design everything in-house and keep pace with the change that is happening so rapidly. So how do you think about collaborating with other participants in the ecosystem, right? And it could be other universities also. I know many universities have MOUs with international universities, etc. But then how do you really build that into the pedagogy itself, these collaborations and MOUs? So imagine a world where today a law student cannot just learn law. They'll have to know what is cybersecurity if they have to deal with cybersecurity law, right? So can you see a world where a law student is doing his legal courses from the university, but also bringing in a course from Michigan on Python through platforms like us, but many other platforms, right? I mean, how do you collaborate with other universities, other participants in this ecosystem to be able to give a fulfilling learning experience from a curricula perspective? And as you work through curricula is also a lot more dynamic today. It has to be a lot more dynamic given the world. So that's trend number 1, the universities being much more collaborative. The second thing we are seeing is, we've always complained that industry keeps saying that we need good talent, but are you taking a responsible role in equipping talent being ready? So today, that's happening. Industry is becoming an educator by themselves, right? If you think about it, I mean, one of the commonest trends that we are all seeing is these industry micro-credentials in academia. How do you bring industry content into the curricula itself through these micro-credentials? So when a student is graduating, can they graduate with a degree, but also some sort of a micro-credential from a Google or a IBM or a Meta or, in companies like that. And even like, for example, from PwC, a direct tax certification. That's industry playing the role of an educator here. So that's the second trend that we are seeing. The third is even hiring itself is changing, which is really, earlier hiring was based on skill or degrees and credentials. Today is starting to a world of skills-based hiring, right? Employers are looking more for, okay, you have a degree and a credential, that is great, but can you prove your skills? How do you use data to actually represent your skills? And therefore, role-based skilling. If I am preparing myself as a student to become a data analyst, I need to know what the skills are required for that role and prepare myself for that. So can I use data to make it a very role-based skilling model? And the fourth thing which many of the co-panelists have talked about is empowering faculty. All of this cannot happen in a vacuum. So faculty need to be also enabled to be able to deliver these innovations in the pedagogy that they are aligned to. So how do you actually use AI as a friend, not as an enemy? So like, for example, we have tools that we have built where AI will help faculty create their own course, a contextual course, so that you're not just stuck with your content, but can you blend together content from other parties using AI so that the course that you deliver for your students is actually very contextualized to your what you're trying to teach. So the four key trends that I want to kind of summarize are universities being collaborative, industry as an educator, skill-first hiring, which is why prepared for skills, and finally, faculty being empowered to use these innovations to deliver a key program. So that's how I would summarize what we are seeing. And one last comment I would make, given the amount of data, so we have about 125 million learners, as I mentioned, and we track about 85,000 skills on Coursera. So a lot of conversation was happening about Malaysia and STEM itself. So we recently released a report called the Global Skills Report, which compares about 100 countries based on what they have been doing on, what the learners have been doing on Coursera. And we ranked them based on business proficiency, technology proficiency, and data science proficiency. And because this is a large sample, it's a statistically significant sample. In that, Malaysia was ranked based on about 600,000 learners of Malaysians on the platform. Malaysia was ranked, we don't have great news, 68th out of 100. Specifically on data science and even technology, Malaysia is ranked lower. So that's definitely like what Dr. Noraini mentioned, is also proven by data in terms of actually how this is kind of pegged against. So if you compare it with Singapore is ranked 16th in that report globally, where Malaysia is 68. So there is obviously a lot of us have a role to play in uplifting the entire skill level in the country. And there's no one silver bullet, but I think the combination of the right curricula from the government, the right academic collaborations with industry and other academic partners, and also working with, just figuring out where do you want to build your skills. That's the role that all of us, I think, as an ecosystem have to play. And we think we also, as an online partner, have a role to play. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Bibin. We have had a fair share of commentaries and presentations, very balanced. Three ladies. I think Mariani is still on the line, Rusmini, and also Noraini, and three other gentlemen, Peter, Bibin, and Engineer Chin. Very lively discussions. I do not want to sum it up. I'm sorry that I will not be able to give any opportunity for you to react, and maybe we will have to, Woon, are we having? Almost there, almost there. So my last parting would be to thank all of them. But before I do that, I don't want to crack a joke. I just want to tell you a small little story. There was this great learned person on a boat with a boatman in a river, which was almost flooded, is moving. So the learned man asked this boatman, have you read this? Have you read that? To every question that this man, almost like a philosopher, asked, the boatman said, no, I haven't. So the boatman just asked, sir, do you know how to swim? The man said, no, I don't know. But all your learning is a waste. Why? The boat is going to sink. So learning living skills is a very important component of the entire system, whether it is family that is giving you the education, the nurturing, whether it is the early childhood education, whether it is the primary and secondary and the university. Everywhere you go, embedded into the whole content is a value proposition and also a component of how you utilize this for your living. With that, I thank you very much for your patient listening. I think back to the organizers for this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sri Barota. I do believe we would have a photography session